Relationships are the threads that weave the fabric of our lives, connecting us to family, friends, romantic partners, and most importantly, ourselves. They're the mirrors through which we see our truest reflection and the crucibles in which we form our deepest bonds. At the heart of it all is purpose. Yes, that guiding force that propels us forward, pushing us to grow, learn, and discover. Purpose isn't just a solitary pursuit. It is intrinsically tied to the people that we share our journey with, our experiences that we accumulate, and the connections that we nurture. I am Akeelia Thompson. Welcome to Sold into Purpose.
Time is wasting. We were meant to love each other. Yeah. Whoa. Separation is the root of all our problems. Whoa. If I hurt you, then I hurt myself. Hate you, then I hate myself. If I kill you, I kill me. But if I love you like I love me, and if I treat you like I treat me, oh, what a world this would be. Oh, what a world when I see you are me.
Hi there, happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sold into Purpose. Yes, we come to you live this and every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. sharp, straight out of Jamaica. I am your lovely host, Akeelia Thompson. Thank you so much for joining us. Here on Sold into Purpose, we take a deep dive into the heart and soul of personal growth whilst providing you with practical insight, heartfelt stories, and actionable steps that you can take to get sold into purpose. So, if you're just curious, seeking inspiration, or you just want to know what this podcast is all about, guess what? Stay connected with us on Instagram and Facebook at Sold into Purpose. That is at SOULED into Purpose. And subscribe to our YouTube channel at Akeelia Thompson. That is AKEELIA Thompson. Please stay connected with us so that you won't miss whenever we go live. As always, we invite you to interact with us. Let us know. Do you like the episode? Comment in the comment section, of course, as well as please bring your teacups and coffee cups this and every Wednesday morning to take a sip with us. Here on Sold into Purpose, we unlock purpose with our special guest. And today we have Mrs. Karen Williams with us, and she's here to take us on a journey of relationships and purpose. You don't want to miss that. But before we get into that juicy story, guess what? Please feel free to share this broadcast with someone. Let someone know who will let someone know that we are live on Sold into Purpose. Welcome to Sold into Purpose. Hi there, and welcome to our SIP feature. Yes, we love it here because each and every Wednesday morning, we take a sip with you. Hmm. As always, can you guess what I'm having today? Let us know what you are having in the comment section. Here, this morning I am having the Lasco chocolate French vanilla mix. Yes, yummy. Let us know what you are having in the comment section. On the sip feature, you know that we cannot move forward without reaching out to the one who has given us our skills and capabilities to walk into purpose. Yes, you've guessed it right. Right now, it is time for us to pray. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather in this moment with gratitude for the purpose that guides our lives and the relationships that enrich our journeys. May you bless our connection and help us to grow, learn, and love more deeply as we walk this path. Grant us the wisdom to nurture our purpose and our bonds with care and intention. May we find strength and resilience in the connections that you have blessed us with as we hold those connections very dear to our hearts. These and other unmentioned mercies we ask of you in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. As always, don't touch that dial. Up next, we are stepping right into the purpose zone. Hi there. You're stepping into the purpose zone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Akeelia Thompson. Welcome to the Sold Into Purpose podcast if you are just joining us. Here in the Purpose Zone, this is a special segment in our podcast where we take 5 minutes to pause, absorb, and connect with the knowledge that we need to propel us on our path to purpose. Thank you. You've now entered the Purpose Zone. This morning, we are looking on purpose and relationships. In the chapters of our lives, relationships play an integral role. They connect us with our family, friends, partners, and even with ourselves, reflecting our joys, struggles, and aspirations. Simultaneously, purpose acts as our guiding compass, directing our choices and propelling us forward to our true north. The beautiful and intricate dance between purpose and relationships is where we discover our most profound life lessons. Our connections serves as mirrors reflecting our innermost desires, while our purpose infuses every interaction with intention. It's within the intersection that we experience personal growth, understanding, and true transformation. This episode is a deep dive into the significance of purpose and relationships. We'll unravel the intricacies of how they can shape our identity, our choices, and our journey through life. Together, we will explore the synergistic relationship between these two elements, illuminating how they define us, enrich our experiences, and ultimately guiding us to a purposeful existence. So, prepare to be inspired as we navigate the enchanting world of purpose and relationships. Join us on this very enlightening journey where we'll discover the true essence of connections and the path that will help us to lead towards a more fulfilling life. On the Purpose Zone, we usually take 5 minutes. However, this morning, because of this powerful and rich episode, we are going to assign you to take 5 minutes after this powerful soul story to reflect, learn, absorb, and take what you need towards living a more purposeful life. Welcome to Soul Stories. Here on Soul Stories, we share with you heartfelt stories from our very special guests. These stories are geared towards helping you live a more purposeful life. Today, we are joined by a woman of unparalleled journey and resilience, Mrs. Karen Williams. Karen's story is a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome and thrive. And yet, her path wasn't always so smooth. At the tender age of 23 years old, as a single mother, Karen decided to leave an unsafe marriage and subsequently filed for bankruptcy. But like a phoenix, she rose. In 2020, amidst the global pandemic, she gave birth to Coach for Life. That is a transformative platform that is aimed at helping marriages with practical and sound premarital education. Karen's voice and wisdom have been showcased on notable platforms such as Signature Talks podcast, Real Talk with Nikki Branch, and even the Oprah Rose Show, just to name a few. As a certified professional life coach, Christian life coach, her achievements span across revered institutions such as American Association of Christian Counselors, Victory Bible College, and many more. She is a wonderful author who has been featured in the My Vegas magazine, as well as she has written two very impactful books entitled one, She Said Yes, Now What? A practical workbook and guide for engaged couples, and Take No Thought, a 52-week guided journal for the overthinker. Ladies and gentlemen, with over 3 decades of marital wisdom, a heart full of stories and passion to change lives, please help me welcome to this wonderful platform, Mrs. Karen Williams. Welcome back to another soul story. Today we're talking about purpose and relationship because, of course, in order for us to fulfill purpose, we need some persons to help us along the way. Our very, very special guest today is Mrs. Karen Williams, but I'll call her Karen for the purpose of this conversation. And she is a relationship fulfillment expert. More specifically, she helps individuals as well as couples to navigate communication skills, conflict resolution, as well as many other relationships topics. So we are here today with Karen. Karen, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Wow, Akeelia, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being here. Anytime you give me a stage to talk about relationships, there I am. I don't even need a microphone. So thank you.
Welcome to the Soul into Purpose podcast, and this is where we help people to navigate different topics with purpose, and I'm sure that persons will learn a lot from the wealth of knowledge that you will share with us here today. So before we get into the juicy topics, and if you're watching this morning, please share it with somebody because we have some interesting questions that we want to talk with Karen about. On and that they need to be a part of this discussion. We have relationships, you have questions you need answers to, you can get it right here. So Karen, tell us about yourself. Give us a little bit about your background. You were a part of the Air Force veteran. Tell us about all of that. You're a mom of 4, and that is an experience in and of it. But tell us, who is Karen and how is Karen on purpose? Tell us all about that.
Absolutely. So of course I'll start because this is airing in Jamaica. So I have to give my big shout out to my peeps, as you know, I'm originally from Jamaica, born in Montego Bay, and, actually migrated to the US when I was about 14. I'm 56 now. So, that's a long time ago.
You don't see.
So that's been a while. So fast forward a little bit. Yes, I've been married now for 31 years. And it's been a blast. Now, I'll tell you this, we've, both of us were married before, so we've learned a lot, and there's a wealth of information that we bring to of course, to marriage and to the conversation of relationship. Now, I'm sure as we go along later on into our conversation, we'll talk about some of those lessons that we learned. But yeah, as you mentioned, I am a mom of 4. One of our sons is already left this earth. He's already in heaven. I have also 4 grandbabies, believe it or not. Yeah. we're enjoying the life of parents to adult children, and of course grandparents to our four grandkids, three boys and our little princess. So yeah, I started in the coaching space probably about 17 years ago. It's about let me see, 2020. Yeah, so of course, I can't ever forget when I actually started my practice, because I started in the middle of the pandemic. So that was July of 2020, when, of course, we all remember how the pandemic affected us, affected relationships, and the impact that it made on our lives. So yeah, I started Coach for Life here in Las Vegas. It's been an amazing journey to, of course, just watch people's relationships evolve as, we navigate those challenges, meeting people that, they think their relationships are over, they have no options, they don't know where to go. And just to sit down with them and just remind them of, again, as you're talking about purpose, but just remind them of the purpose of their relationship. Why did they get married in the first place? Why did they come together? Why did they decide to, to merge their lives together? And so once you remind them of that, a lot of times they find hope. And before you know it, you're literally watching lives transform right before your eyes. And so, yeah, that brings me joy. And of course, I've been doing that for a while now. I've written 2 books. Both are available on Amazon. The first one is Take No Thought. And Take No Thought is just centered around it's a journal. It's actually a guided journal, and it's centered around our emotions, just being able to identify our emotions. And then there's a section of it where it tells you how to surrender those things to God. And of course, surrendering with a scripture reference to help you do just that. And a lot of times we, because we have emotions, we have the tendency of thinking, God doesn't care about our emotions. Well, he gave them to us. So, of course, we don't make decisions based on them, but we want to be able to identify them, recognize them, and then navigate our lives around them as they show up. My second book is actually a workbook for, of course, newlywed couples and engaged couples. And it's called She Said Yes, Now What? And again, it is yeah, because what do I do now? So, of course, a lot of folks, they know about the engagement, they know about planning the wedding, they know about all those things, but they really don't know what it takes to actually build a marriage. And that's where the journey actually starts. So I like to say I provide the tools for them to be able to build or lay the foundation for a healthy marriage on which to build. Yeah, and I think that's some big kudos stuff. So for those of you that don't know me, about a year ago, I was actually selected as one of Las Vegas's most influential women. Yes, actually made the cover of their local magazine. And I've actually been writing a couple of articles for that magazine, again, just to get, not just get my name out there as a relationship expert, but also to provide people, some everyday tools from which they can, build their relationship and navigate their relationship so far. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Some great projects coming up. And as we go into conversation, I'm sure those will, of course, those will be highlighted later. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's my life.
That is a wonderful journey. And I'm sure
Thank you.
Can appreciate your wealth of knowledge. And as you rightfully mentioned, we're talking about relationships. So of course, we have different emotions that we will experience in that space. And our first topic that we wish to highlight is self-discovery and healthy relationships. So my question to you is, how can self-discovery, understanding ourselves and the different things that we feel, how can this help us to have healthy relationships?
Well, that's such a good question, because I actually did a conference for some CEO women. That was the audience that I was speaking to. And one of the things we talked about is how to connect well with ourselves so that we can connect well in relationships. And a lot of times we don't realize how much both of those things are so intertwined, so well connected. Because Akeelia, as you know, the way I treat myself, or the limit that I put on myself, is what I'll expect from others. Right? So if I have like zero self-respect or 100% of self-respect and self-esteem, I am going to walk into the room completely different. Right? So of course, self-awareness, self-discovery, knowing who you are, your identity, all of that ties in. And the first thing you want to think about is, okay, who am I? Who am I? What am I here for? What is my purpose? And how is this relationship I'm about to enter in? How does that navigate? How does that connect? That's the word I'm looking for. How does that connect with this? Because the relationships that we find ourselves in, if they're not propelling us towards the things that God has called us to, it's about time you say, okay, maybe I'm giving too much energy to that connection.
Wow. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
And we're talking about self, and we know that we have societal factors that will impact how we see ourselves. The space or the social media realm in and of itself comes with a lot. How do we block out what is unnecessary and filter in the God-centered things, but also other positive attributes to help us build a healthy you?
See, the thing is, what we have to also realize is social media is not real. It's not real. It is what it is. We use it for the purpose that it's there for, to get, get our message out, get our voices heard. But a lot of times the things that we share on social media are usually the very best of us. Well, that's not our lives every single day, right? There are certain things that are being shared on social media, which the only intent is to get the virality of it, or the likes, and to be, to be well known, to be seen, So remembering that some of the connections that we make on social media, again, they're not so much real. I remember there was a young lady, I think she was in Kenya, and she had about 2 million followers. Well, she had a birthday party and no one showed up. And so it reminds you and I that, hey, followers are not necessarily relationships. And if you want to even get a little deeper, when you think about Jesus and his disciples, Jesus had many followers.
Disciples.
Many, thousands, as we know, thousands and thousands. And I'm sure in our day, if we should count those numbers, it's probably in the millions. But with his disciples, he had 12. And within that 12, he had 3. So there's, of course, there's levels of connection that we make. Now, as we utilize social media as the tool that it is, we have to keep in mind that it's just that. It's a tool. And so, like anything else, we use it for the purpose that it is. There's an old saying, you eat the meat and spit out the bones. You take in what is purposeful for you, what makes sense to you, what serves your purpose. I'm sure we're going to be using that word a lot today, but what serves the purpose for what God has called you to do, and let the rest go. We don't have to get sucked in. There's a limit that I put on myself. I disable my social media apps after 1 hour of use every day. Those apps that's it. You try to reach me on social media after my hour is up, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. So again, if it's necessary to put boundaries in place to measure or to limit yourself to what's necessary, then by all means do that.
Awesome. So we're talking about building up you and a healthy you. Can you give us at least maybe 3 to 5 key characteristics that speaks to someone who is healthy and ready to facilitate a relationship?
Yeah, there's so much more, but what I think about right away is For starters, we have what's known as, we all have these characteristics as we connect and make connections as children, and they're called attachment styles. And the attachment style of secure, those are the characteristics that I would share. So a healthy person would be healthy in their own skin. I'm good, I feel fine whether I have makeup on or whether I don't have makeup on. And I know I was kidding with Donna this morning. I said, oh my God, if you're recording, I'm going to have to wash my face and comb my hair. You know? I told her, yeah, if we're doing a recording, I guess I'm going to have to show up at least looking good for the people. But I'm comfortable in my own skin. Yes, there's always a certain level that we want to present when we get into certain space. And of course, I definitely support that. We always want to show up looking our best. But a secure person is usually comfortable in their own skin, depending on, regardless of where they find themselves or the space that they find themselves. A healthy person, they are okay in or out of a relationship. Doesn't matter if they're with somebody or not with somebody, okay? And so a lot of times you'll find, those healthy persons will have, they're either in a long-term relationship or they just got out of a long-term relationship. You won't find them bouncing from relationship to relationship to relationship. And people don't make them. They already know who they are, right? They're comfortable with company or without company. They're comfortable in a relationship or outside of a relationship, because they have an understanding that when they show up, they're bringing all of who they are to the room, to the table, in the presence of the next person. It's not about what they're going to glean from them. And I'll tell you this much. I think we probably went over 5, but I'll tell you this one. This is what I admire most from healthy individuals when I meet them, is how much they want to hear about you. They want to hear your story. They want to hear about how you impact, what are you doing, and how they can support you. And if we show up in romantic relationships as well as professional relationships that way, we will always in a place where we are building each other up. And before you know it, you're finding people are opening doors for you that you didn't even know was available to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is definitely the strength, one strength of connecting or fostering healthy relationships. You mentioned about the different levels of relationships, and I just wanted to quickly touch on that. We have different persons who will come into our lives at different points in time, but how do we put persons in the respective categories? Because sometimes we take on everybody to be our friend, or we foster too many relationships. How do we put persons in different categories?
Absolutely. So I liken it 2 ways. And usually when I teach, I use pictures. So if you could go to a football game with me, and when I say football, not a soccer game, but think about the American football. There's different yard lines. And so when you think about the football field in and of itself, the cheerleaders are on the sidelines cheering. The players are on the field. You and I are probably in the stands. We're not on the field playing. There's a different relationship that's going on with those players than what they have with the cheerleaders and what they have with us in the stand. That's levels. Not everybody can play the game with you. There's some people that's just called just to be your cheerleader. And there's going to be those in the stands that have all kinds of different things to say. They may cheer you, they may not cheer you, they may like you, they may not like you.
It's on the field.
Exactly. You're not on the field. Okay. And also, if you think back to the Old Testament, how the children of Israel, when they built the tabernacle, you remember what the holies of holies were or was, right? Then you have the inner court, then you have the outer court, and then you have everybody else on the outside. Now, remember, only the children of Israel could come certain part of the court, and then the inner court. And then I remember only the descendants of Aaron could enter into the Holy of Holies. That's the priesthood. So when you think about it, and God told us that we of course, is a temple of the Holy Spirit. We cannot allow just everybody to come into our lives and especially drag in the mud on their shoes into your life. And so you and I have to be able to recognize what mud looks like. You have to recognize what, the things or the characteristics that they're bringing to the relationship and how well that connects with you. And that is why it is so important for you and I to know who we are. That way we can recognize when things don't align with the things God has called you to do.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Must know who you are. There are levels to this, and I trust that someone is out there taking notes, because we have so many gems in this segment alone. To the meat of the matter. Wow, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That is definitely inspiring me, and I trust that it will inspire someone who is viewing or listening to us. We are looking on equality in parenting and relationships, because a part of forming who we are, it starts with our initial socialization. And I am an only girl in my household. I have 4 brothers, and I will say that there is a huge disparity between how the females are raised and the men are raised, or the boys, I should say. You're a mom of 4. How is it you influence your sons, or what skills did you teach them in terms of helping them to become good partners, as well as good husbands, fathers, whatever that space is when they grow older? Because it's important for us to, we come into relationships, as I should say, with different thought process, and sometimes it may be a little bit of a disadvantage for female as opposed to a male, based on how they were raised and what society dictates. So we want to know, how do we navigate that space, yourself being in the capacity as a parent, and then yourself as a coach when you encounter these challenges with the relationships that are placed in front of you?
Oh, wow. That is such a multi-level question. First of all, as a parent, as I mentioned in the first segment, remember, I was born and raised in Jamaica. So that is a completely different way of raising kids than we do here in America, right? So there was already there was something new there that I had to, figure out and somewhat dance around, I guess I should say. So I guess the cool thing is I had 4 boys, so I didn't have a daughter in the midst of all of that to kind of figure out how she would, how she needed to navigate the world or navigate her encounters with the opposite sex. But what I'll say is, having boys, or in my case now they're men, you get the chance to teach them how to be gentlemen. How you want, how you hope that they would treat somebody else that they meet. And, keeping in mind, hey, you don't treat your mom that way, so don't treat any other young woman that way. Okay. So my sons and I, one of them, especially more often, the youngest one, he'll ask me more questions about relationship. And I kind of think just because he was at home the longest, so it's probably why our attachment is the way it is. But a lot of times it's more watching. They watch what their dad and I do more so than what we say and what we tell them. Okay.
Moment, Karen, say that again. Because I think someone needs to hear that. Say that again.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, children are always watching. They're always learning, more so from the things that we do versus the things that we're saying. And the thing is, here's how sure I am of that, because we kind of always knew that. However, now that my children are adults and they tell me, hey, Mom, when I see Dad do X, Y, and Z, it makes sense. I get it. I understand. I remember last year we went on vacation together as a family, and my son took a picture of my husband and I sitting on the beach. And later on, he said, "Mom, I want somebody that can look at me the way you look at Dad." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because again, we often don't think our children are watching, but they are. Even how we touch each other, how we talk to each other. One of the challenges that he said he faced as an adult, though, is, "Mom, I never saw you guys fight. So when I had arguments and fights, I really didn't know how to navigate that." And of course, we were growing up, or I said, I grew up in the era where you don't fight in front of the kids, you take your business off to the side and you discuss it. And that was always how we navigated, conflict. And so that would be one thing that if of course, if we could go back and change things, would be what I change. Explain to them a little bit more about what real life situations look like, how we navigate conflict, how we argue and argue well, how we disagree well, disagreeing respectfully, that type of thing. And that's with any relationship that they find themselves in, whether it's romantic or professional relationships or just, platonic friendships. They're always going to be conflict. There's nothing wrong with having conflict. It's just how you navigate that conflict and how you keep that level of respect all the way through.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Most parents, they believe that the responsibility lies with only having the child or the children, but learning aspect, they leave it up to society or to the teachers in the schools to help them navigate certain challenges. And we need to do better. Well, here, speaking from my society, global level, taking more responsibility and accountability in how we help to mold the younger ones, because this is where we have the problems now in the relationships, because persons grow up with the wrong ideologies, and then it's harder. We end up with yourself as a coach or as a counselor.
Exactly.
So
yes, and and I'll add this to that. That is part of the danger in, when you're talking about two people coming together and trying to merge their life, because if you want to narrow it down to a nutshell, there's half of this world were raised to thrive and half of us were raised to survive. And so when survivors and thrivers come together, one of us is coming from a lack or a scarcity mindset, while the other one is like, "Yo, I was raised where I can do anything. I was raised with surplus. I was raised that I can be anybody. I can be whatever it is that I want to be." While the survivor may have been raised, "Hey, keep life simple. Get your good job with the benefits, and that's the extent of life." And we have those two trying to come together, not realizing that both of you will have to make some major adjustments to meet somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely. And just quickly, if you will, do you think that there's anything we could add more from either societal perspective or educational standpoint in helping persons navigate this arena, parenting, developing oneself? Is there anything that we can do or that you would recommend?
I always say, in everything that we're doing, of course, we start out with parenting. There has to be somebody around you that's doing it right. There's somebody around you that's doing it right. Sit under their tutelage, sit on find out what they're doing, ask questions. Nowadays, that smartphone in your hand is not just to get online. You can actually learn some things from that smartphone. I love mentoring and I love to be mentored, because guess what? You don't know everything. And so there's somebody that has gone ahead of you, done those very same things, and you can learn from them. You can learn from them. And so there's no cookie cut answer or molded answer that will fit every single household, because you have the household with the two parents, you have the two parents that may not be married, you have the two parents that may be married, you have the two parents of same sex, you have the two parents of maybe there's grandma living in the home. And so all of our homes it's so different. The dynamic is so different. So there's not going to be one particular answer that, that fits everybody. You know what I mean? However, when it comes to mentoring, like I said, there's always somebody that has gone ahead of you, that's done the work already, that can help you, bring you along. And even so, those of us that know some things or understand some things, let's reach back and pull those people with us. Let's invite them to the stage. Let's share information. I have a company, and I have a company that's doing well, but I still volunteer and I still give away free coaching, to people in my community. Why? Because if they can't afford my fees, does that mean that they don't get the information that they need in order to live their life well? No. There's some people that may not be able to do that. So I'm always available to do what we call here pro bono work, to help people along in their journey. And, if they don't have the resources to get the things that they want or need.
And that is a great initiative, because we all need help and mentorship. But I want to play devil's advocate for a minute. What if I take the stance, having that scarcity mindset, and I say, well, we know the gem, no man is an island, no man stands alone. But if I take the position to say, God and myself were the majority, what would you say to someone who is taking that stance?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, God don't even agree with you, because that's why he made you a helpmate. Let's start there. God is all about community. And the way we experience the presence of God, or the way we experience the hand of God, is by the people that he has put around us. So yeah, it feels good and it feels safe to be in my own little corner, and I stay in my own little world and my own little universe and not involve anybody else. But you are missing out on the wealth of knowledge and the wealth of ideas that God has placed in other people. That's why he calls it the body of Christ. You and I are maybe the hand or the feet. I told somebody yesterday, I said, I don't even care if I'm the armpit in the body of Christ, as long as I am working out and walking in the purpose that God has called me. Because Akeelia, I'll tell you this, there's nothing more that scares me than missing my mark. I don't want to miss my mark. I want to position myself to be right in line or aligned with the purpose of God. I said, God, I'm like Moses. If you're not coming, I'm not going. I'm not going. Because there's so many different ways that I could be taking my company. I could do this. I can, invite this person. I can go talk on this show. And I was like, but if their principles and their values don't align with my own, what am I doing?
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Encourages us. It says, order my steps in your word, dear Lord, because we can always plan. But at the end of the day, I learned something just the other day, and it says speed in the wrong direction is worse than going slow in the right direction.
Thank you. 100%. Yes.
You need to know.
Yes.
And inviting God in every single step of the way, because he knows whatever he says is yes and amen, and he will never lead us astray. We have that guarantee. He's a covenant keeping.
Absolutely.
He's capable, and we don't have to worry about anything. He has all the answers. So why not trust?
Exactly.
Talking about self and self-respect and how we develop that. But I have self-respect. How do I maintain that whilst allowing other persons to respect the boundaries? Because sometimes persons don't really respect the boundaries. So how do I navigate that space in maintaining my self-respect without losing myself, but also entertaining persons? I want these relationships, but the boundaries, how do we establish?
Yeah, boundaries are so important in relationships, and that includes, and when I say relationship, that includes in marriage, that includes all dynamic, all relationship dynamic. Um, and so, for one, you and I have to be firm about our boundaries. This is what I'm going to tolerate. This is what I'm not going to tolerate. And when you violate those boundaries, they need to be how do I say this now? There need to be strong consequences, right? Don't allow people to violate your boundaries and you do nothing about it. Because again, the only people that benefit from you not having, or the only people that have a problem with you not having boundaries are the ones that benefit when you don't have any. So keep that in mind going forward. So when you set your boundaries, especially if you have not done this before, or people always, oh, go to Akeelia, she'll do it. Don't worry about it. She'll stay after 6 o'clock. Oh, you can call her on Sunday. She'll leave church and come to work. Or, just call her. She's in the bed, but she'll answer her phone. When you first start setting those boundaries, when people are, because there are, people, they know who they can call and who they can, whose time they can, infringe on. But when you first start setting those boundaries, you're going to get what's called pushback. There will always pushback. What do you mean? What do you mean you can't show up after 6? What do you mean you're taking your vacation? Or what do you mean you, after 6 o'clock you're turning your phone off? What is that about? So that's where the pushback. And what you and I are responsible to do at that point is explain exactly what our boundaries are. I am starting to go in another direction with my life. I'm more aware of who I am. I'm not going to get burnt out to do the things that God has called me to do. And in doing so, this is necessary for me. And I thank you ahead of time for your understanding. Because you want to close with that. You want to close like you're nice about it. So once you make that statement, now that person have all the information they need to honor your boundary. See, the thing is, some of us are so afraid of losing, or we're so afraid, again, going in with the scarcity mindset that if I say this person may take their funding, or this person may not put me on air, or this person may never invite me to their show again. But guess what? If that's the case, you weren't supposed to be there in the first place. And we got to be okay with that. We got to be okay with that. Our boundaries are built around our values, our convictions. And if you and I are constantly violating or allowing our boundaries to be violated, then what you and I are telling our peers and our colleagues is that those values and convictions aren't really there. Which that is supposed to be what makes us who we are. Mm-hmm. So every time somebody violates your boundary and you do nothing about it, they chip away at who you are as an individual. 5-10 years down the road, you look in the mirror and wonder, how did I get here? Who I am? And what was the journey I was on in the first place?
That is so true, because purpose starts with having a firm foundation of yourself, knowing who you are, and some sense of where you are going, because purpose is a journey. And
yes.
at purpose, touching the topic of purpose and relationships. In order for us to foster healthy relationships, there are 3 concepts that I pulled from your page that speak authenticity, 2, change, and 3, consistency. Can you break down a little bit, please?
All right. So the first one was authenticity. Going into the relationship exactly who you are. I am who I am. What you see right now is what you get. Now, for those of you watching, of course, you're meeting me for the very first time. So the next time you see me, I may not have makeup on and I might be dressed down a little bit, but my personality, it's the same. It's the same. All of who I am will show up in the space or the spaces that you find me showing up. Right. And so when you and I deny our relationship, that our authentic self, we're actually robbing our relationships, because you and I are we're bringing something so unique and so different to the relationship that nobody else is. Nobody else is you. Nobody else can be me. So if I'm watching other relationships and hoping to pull, to come to the comparison, because there's one thing to look and take examples, but it's another thing to want to copy. And that's important, that we're not copying how other people do things. Yeah, there may be times where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. However, our personality should still show up in the space so that people are not confused by, what we're seeing or what, they're experiencing. The other one is, I'm sorry, what was the other two? I love that.
Change and consistency.
Change and consistency. Yes, absolutely. Of course, consistency is the way you and I, not that okay, so here's what I love about change and consistency, because you know how we say, God never changes. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. However, as you stay in relationship with him, you change. That's the same way with our relationship. You're in the relationship and the individual we're not saying, there's not change in the sense of who we are as individuals, but we are showing up consistently. One of the things I love about my husband is his consistency. I can say, if I say, babe, my flight lands at 6:00, can you pick me up by 6:30? Well, at 6:29, I can look down the street and see him coming. If he's not going to be there, I know there's a phone call that I missed or a text that I missed, because I can count on him. When you talk about consistency in your relationship, your partner and the people that are around you, whatever the dynamic of your relationship is, they have to be able to count on you. Because if not, what exactly are you doing? Because relationships are, as individual, we are supporting each other. Now, as we talk about change in the sense of, if there's anything that you and I are doing in our relationship that's causing hurt, harm, or a lack of care, or allowing our family and friends to feel unloved, we need to change that. We need to stop doing that. And you and I do not get to say, because we don't have a problem with it, that, no, I don't see why it bothers you. You don't get to say that. No, you change the dynamic or your behavior because it's hurting the other person. Because if you have any level of care, any level of love for the people in your relationship, you want to do the things that will bring, that again, make them feel safe in the relationship.
Absolutely. And I saw a clip earlier this week where it says, blood is not thicker than peace. And here the person was making reference to the family dynamics, where persons believe that just because we're related, we have to stay in this relationship, but it's not adding value to me. It's not giving me peace. And before I can foster this relationship, I have to think about myself. How am I doing? And the peace that I have,
right,
this relationship is bringing to me. So at some point in time, if necessary, we need to either we work on it, we make the change and develop that level of consistency, or we need to part. So personally,
exactly,
struggle with that, but it is a reality. So we're talking about romantic relationships. Tell us, what are some of the early signs that you should just run for the hills? Don't even sit down and wait, just run. Tell us some of those signs.
Okay, so keep in mind that the things that will make you run might not be the things that make me run. Okay, and so we need to know that going into our relationships. Okay, but again, it goes back to your values and your convictions. if you have healthy values, if you have healthy, healthy convictions, if you have a healthy sense of self, you're already going into the relationship knowing what you want and what you're expecting. Okay. We're not talking about, I want tall, dark, handsome, curly hair, light skin. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, we want somebody with good character. We want somebody that has a relationship with God so that you don't become the center of their world. They already have their world centered, right? You also know that when you're entering this relationship, it's not about what the person is bringing. It's about what this relationship is about to pour, what you are about to pour into this relationship, and what it's about to pour into you. Okay. We have one of the challenges that I work with, one segment of my clients are, women that are, high-powered women that usually they make, crazy command decisions at work, but their relationships need some work. And one of the things I always tell them, you have to decide on the type of relationship that you want and then settle for nothing less. So you and I have an idea of the relationship that we want. And the moment that doesn't look like the relationship you want, then that's the time to run for the hills. Now, obviously, there are some things that are going to be blatant red flags. For instance, if you meet somebody that's struggling with an addiction, any type of substance addiction, that is not for you because you cannot fix them. That person needs to want to be clean or want to stop using before you can even think about navigating a relationship. Secondly, someone that have a poor relationship or have a poor outlook of those that they deem less than them. For example, the people in the service industry, or they have they disrespect people. If you go out to dinner, first of all, the first date, and they disrespect the server, that should be a red flag for you. Right? Because I have actually talked to women that will tell me, oh, I know he's a horrible person, but he's nice to me. Give it time, sweetheart. Give it time. Because who you are does come out in all aspects and all types of your relationship. Okay. So I would say those are the major red flags. Depending on your attachment style, the way you receive love, the way you give love, all of those, different avenues or different segments will kind of determine how you and I, navigate the relationships that we find ourselves in. And also, should I run for the hills or should I hang out and kind of give it a chance?
Well, hopefully after this session, persons will know whether or not if they should run for the hills or if they should stay a bit. But you mentioned before, we looked at the healthy person who knows themselves and possibly would be in long-term relationships. What about someone who every time you meet them, they are never single? They are just going from relationship to relationship to relationship, not necessarily long-term. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone like that? Do they have some attachment issue? What's going on there?
Can be. I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm saying, why is it that they're unable to be by themselves or to take a breather before they enter into the next relationship?
Yeah. And so that's a topic that I've done some teaching on, why, because the question that was posed to me was, why do I keep meeting the same type of people? Or why do I keep going from one unhealthy relationship to the next? It's not necessarily that, what you are attracting, but of course, what you are allowing to stay. That's the main thing. So keep that in mind. It's not necessarily who or what you attract, is what you're allowing to stay. Because we attract all kinds of stuff, there are people that, keep in mind, you and I have a gift and an anointing on our lives. It's going to attract all kinds of stuff. Now, you and I have to do what we need to do to keep that, to cover that, to protect that per se. So when we're talking about romantic relationships, and yeah, we all know that one person who's never alone, right? They're not really learning from the last relationship. So whatever hurt or pain that they found or they experienced in the last relationship, they rather go to the next person versus take a breather and actually deal with that. You know how when we used to skin our knees when we we go see grandma in the country and we skin our knees in the yard. All right. You remember how they would put a band-aid on it? And of course, you don't want them to touch it, but it's better to just rip that band-aid off and just wash that cut, get all the germs out of it, and then the healing starts. The thing is, when you think about that, as in the sense of relationship, what a lot of us would rather do is let's just keep the band-aid covering it up, and if any little, I know this sounds gross, but if anything seeps out, I just wipe it off around the side and put another band-aid on it. And then in the midst of that, there's an infection happening under there. Some of us have such infectious hearts, and we're not taking care of it. We're not stopping to evaluate and take some, we talked about self-awareness and self-discovery. Every time you come out of a relationship, you're supposed to stop for a second and say, okay, what was I thinking? Why was I in that relationship? What did I learn from that? How did I contribute to the demise of that relationship? Right? That's the question that a lot of us are not asking ourselves. And so we go to the next relationship armed with the baggage from the last one. We experience the same thing because we didn't learn anything from the last one. And so the cycle continues. And so now I have clients who are in their 40s and their 50s and even 60s asking me, okay, I'm done running. I'm done with this. What do I do now?
Wow. And the thing about it is that the purpose road, it continues. It doesn't stop until we're there. So we need to be conscious of the fact that each moment that we do not use it to do something meaningful, we're actually wasting our time and we can't get it back. And we need to take care of ourselves and protect that time because it is precious.
Exactly.
We're going to add relationships and communication. You mentioned before that it is important for us to have self-respect, but we need to communicate those boundaries. And many of us, we're lacking in that area. So we have the things, we've set it up, we understand who we are, but we have not communicated those expectations, and we expect that the person we're in with, whatever form of relationship, let us read our minds and know exactly what they need to do. Help us fix it, please.
Yes, communication is, I call it the lifeblood of your relationship. So just think about it. So without our blood communicating and traveling through our bodies and bringing oxygen around our bodies, we die. That's it. Our body's over, right? So communication is the lifeblood of your relationship. That means you're going to have to keep it active. You cannot communicate one time and that's the end of that. What I told you last week already. No, this is a continuous conversation. This is something that keeps going, it keeps growing. And not every communication moment or every communicated moment has to be a conflict. We don't have to have conflict every time we communicate, right? However, if we have expectations and we don't voice them, that's just downright ludicrous. Because what end up happening is you have expectations based on absolutely nothing. Based on nothing. Because just think about it. If you get hired for a job and you get there and your boss or the company does not have or does not share their expectations with you, you're going to be a little devastated. You're going to be crying in the corner. I don't know what to do. I don't know what they expect from me. Well, until they voice that, No, you don't know what they expect. So you go into your romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, professional relationships, knowing how to communicate your needs. And when you and I know who we are, know our purpose, know what God called us to do, we have absolutely no problem voicing exactly what we need from this relationship, again, whether or not it's platonic, romantic, or professional.
That is that is incredible. We
Mm-hmm.
communication, and a part of that involves us loving our partner. And the love that I'm talking about is LUV. That is listening, understanding, validating.
Validating. All right. So what in our relationships, we have the tendency, because just watch you and I having this conversation. There's a moment where you're listening to me, and there's a moment that I'm listening to you. I'm not listening to respond to you. I'm actually listening to make sense of what you're saying or what you're asking me. And it's the same way in our romantic relationships. We have the tendency to, first of all, we are approaching our relationship from an adversarial position, from the position of wrong or right. Right? And when you and I have demeaned or diminished our relationship to the only to the level of wrong or right, we have lost purpose. Right? You and I have to be able to empathize with each other. And again, we talked about how we were raised and where our backgrounds and all of that. And based on our backgrounds and the way we were raised, we're going to see things a little differently. And I should be in the position to say to you, hey, I've never experienced that, but I understand. Tell me more. That kind of thing. Understanding is, again, I'm listening so that I can understand what you're sharing with me. And when you say validate, I'm literally saying to you, I don't agree, but it makes sense. I don't agree. It may not be for me right now, but it makes sense to you. In other words, I'm not looking at you saying, oh, I disagree with that, so that must be stupid. No, you and I are not the authority on every topic, every subject, in every space. So be open so you can listen to the person, hear what's being said, not what you think they're saying, and understand so that you can respond in a way that it doesn't disrespect the other person. And then you validate them so that you're, of course, in those moments, you're empathizing, you're validating what they're saying. You're saying, hey, I may not agree, but I definitely understand the point that you're making.
That is true. And a part of communication too also involves maybe someone brings something to your attention. You may not have an immediate response, but it's okay for us to say, okay, give me some time. Let me process my
Yes.
back to you, or let me do some research so that I am better able to understand your perspective, and from there
Exactly.
navigate how that is.
Exactly.
We look at love languages, and persons have different love languages, and whenever those things are not being met in the relationship, we're like, okay, let's pack up, let's cheat, let's do whatever, without communicating the love language.
Right.
How do I say to you, this is how I want to be loved, and likewise you say to me, this is how I wish to be loved? When do we say that? At the beginning, as we go through, at what stage is it important to have that clear communication?
I say the opportunity will present itself. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we don't even have to voice it, depending on our relationship. Because if you and I are observant of each other, I can say, oh, I think, quality time is your love language, based on what I observe, or, what I've seen, or whatever the case may be. The thing is with love languages, there a lot of times it's going to be different than your partners. It's going to be different than those around you. And this is when you and I decide, how much do we want to invest into this relationship? Because now we have the tendency to want to change the person so that they become more pliable to you. But that's not how love languages work. They're called love languages for a reason. That means I'm accepting you just as you are, and I'm making the commitment to the relationship to get in there and figure out, what is it that, how do you want to be loved? What is it that you need? to be able to, to walk in, to operate and walk into the relationship feeling loved, cared for, and heard.
Wow, that is definitely something that we should take into consideration. And I trust that our viewers and listeners, you are soaking in all of this information. And of course, you're more than welcome to book a session. Yes, I am promoting her service. Book a session so that you can have all of these things sorted out. So we've talked about self-respect, communication, identifying yourself, whose you are, and you want to go to this space, linking that to purpose. We looked at parenting. We have so many things that you can pull from. So please share this with someone as we continue this conversation. We've done the courtship, we've done the dating. We want to ensure that it's going somewhere and not just going with the flow, which is what many persons are doing in this space and time. How do we know that this is where this relationship is heading?
Okay, let me back up just a little bit. When you first get into a relationship, especially when, maybe the first couple of dates, the conversations that you're having, you have to really start paying attention to what's being said and some of what's not being said. For example, if you're just going out with this person and they're already sharing with you that no, I decided a few years ago that I didn't want children, or that I'm not, I'm always okay just dating, or I'm good by myself, or those buzzwords or those keywords that you hear, that is already sending you a message without you even asking, right? I also teach my clients how to ask those questions in a way that the person doesn't feel like they're being interrogated. So you ask questions. If you want to know if this person ever want to have kids or ever have a long-term relationship, which eventually lead to marriage, you want to ask questions like, so how do you feel about parenthood? Tell me what your family was like, when you were younger. What are some of the things what are some of the traditions you have in your family that you would maybe want to start in your family, or, continue those in your family? And so you're learning a lot from just having, those conversations. And again, you watch how they deal with other people outside of you. Again, you're not the only person that they should be respecting when you're thinking about marriage and merging your life together. So right away, how do you know if this relationship is heading towards marriage? I'm thinking within 6 months, you should have some idea. Within a year, if the relationship is not going to the next step, then you're probably wasting your time with this person, if that is what you want as well.
And just pulling from that, persons have this expectation that we're just starting out and the first date matters, because we have a viral video that is going around. I'm not sure if you saw it, where this young lady, the gentleman took her on a date. She was late. Yes. And she don't want to go to cheese factory. She want to get out of the vehicle. Well, I am 100% with the gentleman. As a matter of fact, some person said that they would have left her right there in the parking lot, and I agree with them. But exactly. What is your take on that? Do you believe that the first date is a reflection of how the gentleman sees you?
I don't, because again, we are allowing, like we said earlier, we're allowing social media to kind of dictate how we should navigate our relationships, and that's dangerous, right? But if, let's say that actually, that actually happened, and you want to really figure out who this person is based on date number one. Date number one is an introduction. It's not the Holy of Holies yet. It's an introduction, right? So I think, excuse me, that when you're talking about an introduction, it is probably the most casual encounter you'll ever have. Hello, how are you? I'm Karen. Hey, you're Akeelia. Nice meeting you. You know, and where whatever that environment in, for me, I like being outside. I like being active. So I suggest to a lot of my first time, clients, if you're going on a date for the first time, invite the person into your space, not your house. Let me be clear. You do not take someone to your house on date number one. No. Okay. Side note. But when I say invite them into your space, if you enjoy the outdoors, maybe you guys go for a walk. If you especially here in the States, a lot of people, they have their dogs. They want to take them to dog parks. The coffee shop around the corner, there's a new wine tasting event next month. Maybe we should. That's super casual. There's no pressure. There's no need to impress. There's no need for me to try and win you over, or because again, it's an introduction. How about a good old-fashioned picnic? Meet me in the park. And let's just have conversation. Date number one is all about conversation. You not wanting to go to the Cheesecake Factory or any, similar, restaurant or establishment. To me, it's shallow. It's super shallow. And again, in that moment, you're learning a lot from the individual that's not even being said.
True. And the whole recording process was just above and beyond. But
yeah.
Lesson learned. I'm sure she will learn when she rewatches that clip.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
So we've met the 6 months or 1 year mark. Mm-hmm. Moving into the next level. How important is premarital counseling?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How important is premarital counseling, therapy, any kind of premarital work? That's asking, how important is it to lay a foundation to build your house?
I hope we're all listening.
Does the house you live in have a foundation?
Absolutely.
Akeelia, if you build a structure without a foundation, it's going to eventually cave in, right? That is what premarital coaching, I call it premarital education, because depending on the relationship, you may need just coaching or counseling or therapy, right? So when you're talking about investing in premarital education, the pushback that I normally get is, oh, you're just a little bit too expensive. And this is an investment for the rest of your life. You are spending $25,000 to $30,000 US on a wedding, but you won't invest $2,000 in premarital coaching or premarital education for 10 weeks. You're talking about the rest of your life. I'm not saying that you have to get a coaching with me, but dear Lord, get it from somebody.
Right.
Because here's the situation over the years, in the 17 years I've been doing this work, here's what the common thing that I get. I didn't realize he was like this until we got married. I didn't know she was like this until we get married. Akeelia, I've had clients that once they finish with my premarital coaching, they actually called the wedding off because they learned things from each other that they were not ready to merge their life with yet. And that's okay. Now, mind you, I am not here with the intent of calling anybody's wedding off. As a matter of fact, I celebrate marriage. But here's the thing. I went into this work, when I started my company, I went into it with the purpose in mind to decrease the amount of divorces that we have. That's my ultimate goal. As a matter of fact, I wrote an article called Stop Getting Divorced. Because that's the reason we're getting divorced is half the time we had no idea who we were getting married to. We saw the red flags and we excused them away. Right? In my first marriage that ended in divorce, which is why I don't want you to get divorced. But in my first marriage, I learned that my ex-husband had not paid any income tax the year before. And so as a result, the money that I made, because we were now joint, the money that I made went to paying his taxes. Well, that I was a little salty behind that. You know, why? Because I didn't take the time to learn how he felt about money, what his financial characteristics are, what his financial personality was, how much debt he had, how he felt about spending, what does spending look like, and what does saving look like to him. I didn't stick around to hear all that. He was cute and we had a baby together, and so we should get married. Hey, that's good enough reason to get married, you know? And so at that time, that's what society basically pushed us to do, because all the older people in our lives were, hey, that's your baby's father. Who else should you marry? Well, a year and a half later, we were done. We were filing divorce, and I was divorced before we would even hit 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that many persons are focused on being married, but not the marriage. And I saw
say that again.
Focus on being married, but not the marriage. And after the lights turn off, after that ceremony, that is where it begins. And that is the
because marriage, if you think about marriage in the sense of, think about when I teach couples, I teach it to them in a way that marriage is a journey. It's not a destination. So imagine getting, you get prepared all for this one day. You get married and it's an event and it's a party. So you're not preparing for the event, you're actually preparing for the journey. And so the journey itself should look like, month one, year one, the first 5 years, the first 10 years, the first 15. And you should have gone along, along the journey, or made some headway, make some steps, made some changes. One of the mottos that I live by is a quote by Bishop Desmond Tutu. It says, there comes a time when we have to stop pulling people out of the river and go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And so what was happening was, as a coach, I was constantly doing marital coaching. People were already married and find themselves unsure of why they got married, didn't mean to get married. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know he was like this. I didn't know she was like this. So instead of putting Band-Aids on it or fixing the issue now, let me go upstream and find out what are couples lacking, why they keep falling in the first place. Because guess what? When you go downstream, they're going to be rough waters. They're going to be dark waters. They're going to be rough times. They're going to be dangerous times. And so if you and I don't have the life vest or the boat or the canoe or whatever it is that we need to navigate that, we're going to drown. And a coach, a counselor, or a therapist is going to come along and have to pull you out of that. Help you navigate that, give you the tools now to navigate where you are. Meanwhile, had you and I invested in the premarital work in the first place, we would be armed with everything that we need, because guess what? The rough waters are coming, whether you're prepared for it or not. It's coming, So when you get downstream, which is life, children, finances, in-laws, sexuality, romance, sickness, health, all of those things. When you get down there and you start encountering those rough waters, what do? During the pandemic, a lot of people found out what their relationship was actually built on. Someone said to me, hey, is your husband back to work? Because, he's in entertainment business. So of course, all of that was shut down here in Las Vegas during the pandemic. My husband stayed home for a year and a half during the pandemic. And someone asked me, aren't you tired of him being home? I'm like, no. As a matter of fact, I like having him at home. I like coming home and he's there. I like coming home and, I can talk to him about my day, which normally he's not home because we work different hours. I usually have to grab him in between his work shifts, those kind of things. So if you and I are marrying people that we don't want to be around, I mean, I got nothing.
We need to understand that it is an investment, not just in the marriage, but an investment in you. And if we start with the act of investing in ourselves, then it becomes so much easier to invest in that entire process, because it's two different persons, maybe two different cultures, and you're merging all of that to become one. And the tools, we need to be equipped to navigate the space. Just like, as you mentioned, we go on the job, we need the manual, we need to know what is expected of us so that we can function fully. Then we need those tools to navigate that space. And you talk about finances, and I'm happy you mentioned that, because I literally saw a post this morning where someone says his greatest fear with getting married is because he does not want anyone to say that my money is their money. So tell us about the 50-50 rule. How do we talk about finances? Because that is a big thing.
Yeah, that is one of course, that's one of the modules in my workbook, and it's been the center of quite a few contentions in my sessions, as you could imagine, because one's, of course, part of the, what's included in the work that I do is, up here, I'm not sure if they have them in Jamaica, but here we have these credit reports that if you need your to learn how much debt each person have, you got to get a credit report. So one of the things that I require of my couples when they come in for premarital coaching is they have to pull their own credit report. I don't have to see it, but they have to share it with each other, because you're not going to leave my coaching session and tell anybody that when we left, I had no idea about the person that I was getting married to. Okay. Now, finances is, for starters, there's no such thing as 50-50 rule. In a healthy marriage, there's no such thing. Okay. When you talk about if couples or individuals are going into their relationship, and I got to sit up straight for this one, if they're going into their relationship with the mindset of 50-50, you're already going in failing, because you're going in there with no desire to become one, when oneness is the ultimate goal of a marriage. Okay. That's the ultimate goal of a marriage. When God said, hey, I brought you two together because the ultimate goal is to become one so you can bring a godly seed in the earth, right? So when we're talking about finances, I was actually listening to a podcast recently. And I think it was one of Dave Ramsey's podcasts. And the host of it, he was sharing a story because this lady wrote in and she said, when she went to the hospital, had a baby, and she opted to do the epidural. Well, the epidural costs more when you go into the hospital to have a baby. So the husband said, you're the one that opted for that. You have to pay that bill. Now, listen to that. That's the reason why. The reason why he can do that is the relationship had already been decided that we're going to split things 50-50. Okay. Your wife just gave birth and we're discussing about who's going to pay for the hospital bill. So, we go into these relationships, or we go into a marriage thinking, okay, your money is your money and my money is my money. But if you and I are not willing to merge those things or to share those things, and I hear every excuse in the world. Well, Karen, you don't understand the dynamic of my relationship. My husband is just a spender, and so I can't allow him to have access to the money, or I let him have his own money. Listen, When you sit down and have grown-up conversation, because we're not talking about children here. When you sit down and have grown-up conversations, and this person have such a habit to where they have no self-control when it comes to spending, because if you made financial goals like a house or a vacation or whatever that would look like, if you have goals with your partner and your behaviors are not aligned with those goals, is that the person you should be married to? So it goes back again to the premarital work and the foundation and the importance of having that work done. Okay, so let's fast forward and say you did get married, but this is where you find yourself with this person. You got to get some help. You have to sit down with a therapist at this point, a counselor or financial person. I think your last guest was a financial advisor. Go see him. Go talk to him. Make an appointment. you know, and have a conversation and come up with a plan to navigate those things. Don't settle in the moment and just dance with that dysfunction and say, hey, let's just split the money in half. Let's just split the money in half. But what exactly are you working towards when it becomes your norm?
Because it's what you put, and then it's just chaotic.
Exactly. Chaos. Yeah, that's it.
So we get into the relationship, premarital counseling and all, and we're in it. We have the tools, and I'm hoping, because purpose is on all of our lives, and sometimes someone's purpose may shine a little bit brighter than the other. Not to say that one is more significant, but we're graced differently, and God has placed us here for different reasons. So I'm in this marriage and I'm looking for a partner. I'm seeking support, but instead I end up with a competitor. How do I navigate?
Yeah, I remember we were talking earlier about how we navigate conflict, and instead of seeing each other as our adversary, we have to remember that we're on the same team. When you get married, there's a reason why we both have the same last name now, because we are on the same team. There's a significance with that name changing in my perspective, or from my perspective. But if you're on the same team, you have the same goals, you have the same vision, for the marriage and as a couple. Now you're gonna have individual goals, because remember, you don't stop being the person that God created you to be because you got married, right? So you still have individual goals. You still have focus and plans and purposes that God calls you to do. And so the thing is, when you get married, or when you get into this new relationship now, that relationship is supposed to be propelling you towards those things, towards that purpose. If you're in a marriage, or if you're looking to get married to someone who has absolutely zero respect for your purpose, that is not the person for you. And I boldly say it. You're with the wrong person. You're with the wrong person. When I go to my speaking engagements or any event that I'm going to, I be giving my husband big time props. It's like, that's my man in the front row, that's my man in the back, wherever he is in the room, I'm giving him his props, because the only reason I can do what I do and do it well is because I have him supporting me. He is that beam that is supporting me. He is, yes, I have my own backbone. Yes, I could do this thing on my own, but I can go so much further knowing that somebody has my back.
That is true. That is true, and that is wonderful to have that level of support, because together we can go further. But as you mentioned that, I just have some quick stereotypes that I wanted to break down. You may explain if you wish to, or you can just give a quick reaction.
Okay.
So first one. So I am an independent woman and I don't need a man.
I'm an independent woman and I need a man. Because guess what? Men really do need an independent woman. They do. Grown men want a woman that can make decisions.
Mm-hmm. And
Because there's some
to their
that part. That part. Because he may not always know what to do. He's not a know-it-all. You know, so a lot of times my husband will say, "Babe, what do you think about this and this?" I'm not sure. Okay, let's go work on it together. Let's go get the experts involved, or hire somebody to do it, whatever the case may be. So the thing is, being an independent woman is not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing. But however, it has nothing to do with whether or not you need a man.
Right, so there you have it, ladies. So we have another one.
Mm-hmm.
So I love him, therefore I can propose to him, right?
Okay, listen. Oh gosh. I'm really being transparent now. When I met my husband we met in 1991, 92. We met in 1992. No, 1991. We got married in 92. All right. So we met in 1991. And at the time when we met, I was just smitten. I was just smitten by this guy. He is amazing. And I thought, I asked him, "What do you think about getting married?" And that's how the topic of marriage came up. I'm not getting down on one knee with a ring asking nobody to marry me. This was a mutual decision. What do you think about it? Yeah, I never really thought about, yeah, we should. It makes sense. That works for us. Not now, to each his own, because I am not trying to make anybody feel like, feel less than, or feel, feel any shame. I'm not bringing shame to you. I don't want you to walk away. I don't want your audience to walk away feeling any level of shame, because listen, when you talk about, when we're talking about marriage and we're talking about merging lives together, this is a serious undertaking, so hey, have conversation about it and give him the space to say, yeah, I think I want to partner with this person. All
right, thank you for that. So
yeah,
final one to break down. Should men stop asking women what they bring to the table?
Please, can everybody stop asking what they bring to the table? You're not a meal. Stop talking about that. Stop it. Yes, it's time we stop talking about what we bring to the table. Get to know each other, get to know personalities, get to know character, get to know goals and plans and achievements and desires, instead of, okay, what are you bringing to the table? What table?
Well, Karen, the final question to you is, purpose and relationship. What is your parting advice to our listeners and viewers?
Gosh, so much. First, this was a great conversation, and I'm hoping that people pull a lot of nuggets from this, because I love these impromptu conversations. I can say, I didn't know what you were about to ask me. so this is great. And I love it, because it doesn't give me a whole lot of time to overthink the answers. You know what I mean? But what I would leave, when you talk about relationship, what I would leave your audience with is, we said this earlier, decide on the type of relationship that you want and settle for nothing less. When we start settling for less, we're actually leaving parts of ourselves each time. Every encounter, we're leaving part of ourselves behind. You and I don't want to get 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road and realize that we have completely missed who we are. We look in the mirror and we don't recognize ourselves anymore. Okay. And so remember that going in. If you're already in a marriage, I say you are on the same team. Do not approach conflict resolution from an adversarial position. That is what the enemy wants. Keep in mind, there is an enemy that hates marriage. There's an enemy that do not want you to stay married. There's an enemy that is going to always show you what's greener and what looks better, and then shame you when you step out into what you think was better. Okay? So keep that in mind. If you get nothing out of this conversation, that should be your takeaway. Write it down. Put it on a sticky note, put it on your mirror, and go buy my book.
I really enjoy the conversation. It is so profound. We have so many gems, nuggets, whatever you want to call them, that you can take from this conversation. And as always, I encourage persons to rewatch the conversation, because I don't know where else you can get it, but I know that you can get a whole lot here on this podcast, because we have guests who just are real, who bring their experiences with them, and who are able just to take a topic and just to transform it, because this is truly transformational, and link it to purpose, and always incorporating God at the center of it, because without him we don't have a purpose. He is the reason why we're here. He's the reason for the season, and the reason and the center for everything that we do in life as it relates to purpose, and any industry that we want to tie purpose to. So thank you so much, Karen, for coming. I really appreciate it. And of course, we will have you again around Valentine's Day thereabouts, because I want to talk about And please, we will have the links under this video, as well as her information. Go to her page, The Real Coach for Life. Follow her, book your consultations, get her books, because this is an investment that you should make in yourself, as well as the relationship that you're entering into. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode on Sold into Purpose. See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Have a good one.
All right. If you are out there and you wish to partner with us or share your products and services, please contact us with the information on your screen. That is soldintopurpose@gmail.com, souled intopurpose@gmail.com, or give us a call at 876-427-7067. We look forward to working with you. If you are out there and you have a story that you believe will change the nation, guess what? Feel free to contact us right here on Sold into Purpose to get your story heard. That is, contact us at soulintopurpose@gmail.com. That is SOULED intopurpose@gmail.com, or give us a call at 876-427-7067. We look forward to sharing your story. As we conclude this profound exploration of purpose and relationships, we truly hope that you have found inspiration and valuable insights that you can take towards your relationship. Guess what? This is where the two elements blend, and of course, we can see how they're connected and why they are important. Remember, your connections with others are a mirror reflecting your growth, your capacity for love, your potential for transformation, and of course, your purpose. This is your guiding light that will help to take you to the next level. However, it is important for you to ensure that the relationships that you have, you spend the time to nurture them, invest in yourself, and of course, see how best it is that you can get additional tools to navigate the space with communication and conflict resolution. As always, we thank you so much for joining us, and we invite you to join us next week, Wednesday, 6 a.m. sharp, for another impactful story on purpose with another special guest. And as always, I'm your lovely host, Akeelia Thompson. This was a wonderful session, and I'm so happy to do this with you every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Thank you so much. And as always, join us, same time in the same place. Let's take a sip together. See you next week. Bye.